International economics. International economics is a sub-branch of economics theory that deals with the discussion of the principles related to international trade and finance. It also studies the effect of interdependence among countries with respect to trade and finance and what are the factors that affect it. Thus, we can say that international economics is that branch of economics which deals with international trade and international finance. This is a question for you all to answer, whether international economics is a part of microeconomics or macroeconomics. But before that, let's have a look at what is microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics is the study of individual units and macroeconomics, the study of a country. Think. You all will be divided into breakout rooms to do so. International trade deals with microeconomics part of international trade because they deal with individual nations treated as single units and with the price of individual commodities. Since the balance of payment, as well as with adjustment and other economic policies that affect the level of national income and general price of the nation as a whole, they represent the macroeconomic aspect of international economics. Thus, there are two branches of international economics: theory of international trade and international monetary economics. Theory of international trade, which is microeconomic in nature, covers the basis or causes of trade and the pattern of trade. Effect of trade on production, consumption and distribution of income. Effect of trade on relative factor prices and product prices. Gains from trade and distribution of the gains. Effect of trade barriers on trade, factor and product prices and income distribution. Effect of trade on economic growth and vice versa. International monetary economics, which is of a macroeconomic nature, deals with matters pertaining to balance of payments and international monetary system. It covers areas such as causes and methods of correcting balance of payment disequilibria, exchange rate determination, international liquidity, relationship between balance of payments position and other macroeconomic variables. If you have a close look at your course outline, you will observe that Unit 1 to 6 deal with theory of international trade. And Unit 7 to 14 deal with international monetary economics, which means we have one whole session to discuss various aspects described in previous slides. So, no need to worry. Relax and breathe. International trade and living standard. The integration of different markets through international trade and finance has boosted standard of living in terms of accessibility to variety of resources, low-cost products and great variety of goods and services. To understand how international trade and standard of living are related, let's study the model of economic growth in U.S. and its impact on economic growth of other countries and thus, standard of living of U.S. residents and people in exporting countries. This chart is a process that shows how economic growth in a single nation in the world generates economic growth in other countries, and this will also clarify the word interconnectedness used in the very first slide. Let's assume that U.S. economy is growing. Economy growth means increased income of U.S. residents, which means their increased purchasing power, which means increased demand of products, which leads to increased imports. Imports of U.S. will mean exports of other nations, so increased imports will mean increased exports from other nations, which ultimately will generate economic growth in other countries. Now, let's take this model further to see the impact of growth in economy on residents' standard of living. In this slide, let's see how economic growth is related to standard of living. I will take my example here. I am living in Canada. So, increase in Canada's income will impact my income, but how? There is a growth in Canada's export leading to growth in its economy. Any economic growth is complemented by increase in its gross domestic product, that is GDP. An increase in GDP is an indication of increasing my income. So, if my income will be increased, I will easily fulfill all my necessities, and if some money is left, I can either save it and use it later to buy car or house, or I can use it for accessing luxuries. Thus, keeping the money circulation going. Everything that's happening is increasing my standard of living. I will have access to more services that I has before the growth spur started. So, now you are aware of all the learning outcomes. Time for questions. Time for quiz.